Good morning, Denise Dryden here, out on Bainbridge Island, enjoying a fabulous, quiet Sunday morning. And then the boats start going by. Today I want to talk about something that's been around for a long time, the 4 agreements. I started working with this with a client last week, and it's come up twice now since I brought it up when, I follow the energy. Whenever something comes up, I pay attention to it and start accumulating a series of notes that I can share with you each Sunday morning. So 4 agreements: basically be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. I'm reading, of course, and always do your best. And they're in that order, which is be impeccable with your word. Watch where poison, where things that you don't want to associate with yourself enter into your vocabulary, and that you're in integrity. And then don't take anything personally. When somebody does something, it doesn't mean that it's about you, right? And then don't make assumptions. And then always do your best. So today I want to talk about that assumptions piece. And the title of this video is called If Then. If this happens, then I know what's going to happen next. And I want to go right straight after that because it affects our relationship with ourselves. It affects our relationship with another partner that we're with. It affects our family. It affects work. It affects everything we do, is when we start accumulating this kind of concept of if. So let's walk through this a little bit and I'll show you. So what we know is that there are energies, emotions sort of coming through the airwaves all the time. You see something hits you, it impacts you, and it goes into your head. It kind of comes through and you go, I noticed something. And then what we do is we bind that thought with something we associate that emotion means. So, we have our own view of it. It's our beliefs, it's our values, it's our experiences, our feelings, our observations. It's what makes us jealous. It's our wishes, it's caring, it's love, it's everything. Whatever it is, we bind that with that experience. And we go, oh, when I feel that, this is the association I make with that experience. So it comes through our head, right? So it comes through here, and then it comes out on the other side, bounded into some sort of an experience. So this is how we perceive, how we take in what we notice, and what we hear and what we see. And then we stack this observation into the context of our experiences. So I'll give you an example of some of the stuff. If this just happened, if she's late, fill in the blank, if he didn't call when he said he would, if she looks the other way when I ask a question, if this car is going way too slow in the fast lane, that was mine, I was on the road last week, if I eat this piece of berry pie, you can fill in whatever. If. Put whatever you want into that if category and watch what happens. So this list can go on and on. And it's because we have our own lens. It's because we have our own context that we grab these things. And then we have a judgment, we have an assumption, we have a perception about what that means. So it's really interesting when we're gathering these pieces of information and we're triggered, or we're stressed, or we're overwhelmed, or we're tired, or we're hangry, we're anxious, and then they shape the context, which is if you're irritable and someone's late, then you're going to jump to a conclusion. If you're hangry and there's berry pie at the farmer's market staring you in the eye, you may decide that that's the only thing that's going to satiate you right now. And then it's never going to be clean when we are grabbing a hold of something and we already have a context that's being influenced by our mood. So we take this and then we bind it with the context of this is my thoughts, this is my experience. If she's late, this is about her being rude to me. So we take it personally, which is where we go back to the 4 agreements, which is don't take anything personally. So let's go back to this again and go energy and motion. We bind it to the thought. And then what happens next? The best part is that we do the next step, which is hilarious. Then we bind it a second time with then. Then we project out what's going to happen. Oh, then. If she's late, then I feel disrespected. If she's late, then I feel like I don't matter. I'm not as important as she is. If he didn't call when he said he would, then I can feel neglected. I feel unloved. These are all the kinds of things that I run in my head, right? That have nothing to do with the fact that he didn't call. The if and then is like this double whammy. It's a double bind. And that double bind, we lock it in twice. We hold these binds and then we hammer other people with them. I'm laughing because this is just, once we start pulling apart the if and thens, and we realize that it comes from our own context, then we have the ability to look at some of our own expectations, our own assumptions, how we jump to conclusions in our heads, and how all of this is this crazy zone. Now, if we're going to go to the work that Greg Braden's doing, the work that HeartMath is doing, the work that we're seeing in science, in quantum physics right now, which is that form follows thought. So we have this emotion that comes through, right? And we have this head that puts a context in it and then does this if and then. It means that we're going to create all that we want to create in our world that's around those statements. I feel disrespected, then I'm going to feel disrespected everywhere I go. If I feel hurt or unloved, I'm going to see versions of being hurt and unloved all the way around me. So I know that we've been talking sort of on a much more conceptual level. So I want to bring this in a little bit and talk about how do we address this if we want to change our lives. So we can observe and notice and collect, oh, here comes something. She's late. Here comes something. I had an expectation that I was going to do something tonight. And then you catch it and you stop it right there before it binds in your head with a context. And when we do that, it becomes an observation. We're just collecting information. We're just observing. Now, I'll give you an example. I work with parents who have teens or young adults who have been sent away from home because they can no longer deal with their problems, the things that they struggle with at home. So what we know is that there's events and there's choices and there's sorrows around this teen who's had to be removed and sent to wilderness and then off, in the case of what I work with a lot, in a therapeutic boarding school. Some of these reasons is that they may have frozen and stopped going to school, isolating. They may have gotten lost in video game overusage. You know, we're talking 7, 10, 14 hours a day. Social media, the inability to concentrate and do anything in school because you're managing your Snapchat or your Instagram. School failure, bullying, thoughts of suicide, promiscuity, drugs. All of these things are like stacking on each other, right? And they start building into a situation where we know we have a kid that can't do school anymore. So what happens is that the parents have all these imprints of fear. This is what's going to happen. If I see her slow down on her homework, this is what I think is going to happen. So we have to go in and change those loops, those contexts of the if. What you see if over here does not necessarily mean then. So we have to draw some lines in between it. So here we are capturing the ifs and then moving over into the thens and shaping it differently. So I think that space in between the if and then, or even in the observation period before we go to the ifs, is where we interject compassion. If she's late, it's like, man, she's late. I hope she's okay. And it's okay. We have time. I have the control over time. If we don't get enough time, it's okay. But we have time. If he didn't call when he said he would, I wonder if something came up. I hope he's having a really good time tonight. And then we release what we automatically bind into our own perceptions and our own experiences and our own fears, and we open the door for something else to happen. It's up to us to catch these. It's up to us to manage them. It's up to us to take that pause and go, I could jump to this conclusion, or I can put in a pause and step forward with compassion. This if and then pattern is enormous when we start grabbing it. What I like about it is it allows us to be free. It's like emotional freedom. I'm not reacting to something anymore. Laughter, kindness. We're softer. We're more loving. We're more compassionate. And my guess is that we need this. Our families need this. Our community needs this. And our world really needs this. Is how do we stop jumping to conclusions, isolating and separating people based on these perceptions we have, and we start using compassion, and we break that if and then pattern. So these are the kinds of things that I do in my coaching. If this is something you're interested in learning more about, you can look me up on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com, and have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful next week. Take care. Bye-bye.